Hi folks. This video is going to be cool for you guys because it's entitled How to Educate Your Golden Child. Now you've seen the video that I made about the golden race. I've been doing that since 2006. I've had 10 YouTube channels. I normally get those YouTube channels deleted by YouTube for one reason, and one reason only. And it's a reason that I'm proud of. So it's because I'm highly, incredibly critical of white supremacy. You've seen, the people that follow me and watch me, I mean, there's thousands of people that do. Between here, by Facebook, I spend more time on Facebook. I don't really know how to work Twitter all that well. I mean, I can figure this shit out, but, I have some good Twitter interaction, but I mainly focus on Facebook and YouTube. I've been on YouTube since 2006. People have been watching me since 2006. All the top YouTube stars all could subscribe to me first when I had all my YouTube channels back in the day. So PewDiePie, Shane Dawson, Ray William Johnson, Tommy Sotomayor, they all subscribed to me first. I didn't even know who they was. I mean, they got great channels and all that stuff and everything, and they do cool content, but, I don't do content like that. My content, I'm like a ping pong player who's a champion, a world champion. I hit the ball hard and fast every fucking time, okay? No bullshit, no playing around. I even saw Jenna Marbles back in the day say that she's got a master's degree from Boston University, too, if you don't know it. But I heard her say back in the day, if you want to make a successful YouTube video and you want to make money on YouTube, don't make a video that means anything. Just make stupid shit. So I can say that might be true, but today you come forward and you see some of these YouTube people making some videos that matter, and they're still making money. And they make smart videos, like the best inventions, or how to make people's lives easier, and stuff like that. So you can't fault that shit. You know what I mean? And they'll even slide some stuff in there that is actually beneficial to the world. And they don't have necessarily, they don't just only want to be stupid, but it's not the people's fault that America is so fucking dumb. It's that we're educated to be that way. We're dumbed down. So, so nothing's written in stone. It doesn't have to be that way. You can change it. Any one person can change it. I'm changing it. You see what I'm saying? I've always been here for you. I know I haven't been making enough videos in the last, say, year or two or whatever. I've kind of quit making videos, but I still make one every now and then or whatever. And I like doing, my singing videos or pantomiming the saxophone with my world famous hairbrush here, playing like I'm playing the saxophone or whatever to Boney James music and maybe some others, but whatever. So I'm here to tell you, so I only got one focus, for living, and that's to save the world. And there's no other reason why I'm alive. I'm here to do that. I'm like John the Baptist, literally. I mean, I'm the precursor to the golden race. So we're about to get into some serious esoteric, advanced, intellectual shit. Now, I consider myself probably to be, I'm the most intellectual person I ever met. It's just that simple. I believe I could out-argue Noam Chomsky. I believe I could out-argue probably any fucking body. Because I got so much experience as far as work goes, as far as, I read so many books in my life. And then I've got that shit all in my genetics. So when it says the Toltec, it's not a joke. I'm the fucking Toltec. I'm a reincarnated Toltec, and then I'm a golden Toltec, you see? So my lineage comes from, Sonora, Mexico, and you just take that word, son of Ra. See? I'm one of the Shimsu Hor. I'm one of the sons of Horus. See what I'm saying? So I don't practice sorcery techniques in this lifetime, but I can liberate the world by just, a positive focus and keeping my thought, word, and deed consistent, So that's what I do. So I'm here to help you save the world, and we're going to do it. It's just that fucking simple. So if you're going to save the world, the people that do it have to have enough, quote unquote, genetic intelligence to do it. The only way to do that is to get as much an equal measure of each genetic group. Now, when the sapiens like us, the Adam and Eve, the atom, came about, there were basically 7 race groups. So, let's go over those. So we got black, brown, yellow, red, and white. And then there were 2 groups, and you've seen them before on the internet, or if you've researched or you've studied any of the Vedic literature or text or any of the Hindu information or any of the Indus Valley culture information or any of the Tibetan information and stuff like that, you'll see two groups that seem to have like a light bluish skin, light blue skin, and then another one that had like light green skin. Those people are called moon-colored people, and they were legitimately there. You can see them on the reliefs in the temples all around the world. You'll see like these different colored people that you're used to, and all of a sudden you'll see these blue motherfuckers and these green motherfuckers, light green, and they look like Hindus and shit. That shit's legitimate. They were called moon-colored, and you can study Helena Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky's books, and she will talk about those people. They did exist. So, but now we only have 5. So if you can get about equal measure of each genetic group into the genetics of the person that becomes the golden person, that person has a higher level of genetic intelligence. Because genetics has a memory, that's a known scientific fact, and it's also a known scientific fact that memory is tied to IQ. So genetic intelligence in the intelligence quotient. So you have a higher level of genetic intelligence. So to save the world, I'm not saying that a regular black person or white person or whatever can't do it, but it probably ain't going to happen. Probably the way it's going to go down, and you want to stack the deck in your favor, is to build the golden race. And it's about time. Now America is called the melting pot or whatever. And the greatest educator that ever lived is named Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner created what was called the Waldorf School, or the Waldorf education method. Now the way you know that his method of education is superior to every other method of education ever fucking made is the Germans are smarter than everybody else. Now he was an Austrian. He was an architect. He was an artist. He was a scientist. He was a theologian. He was a agriculturalist. He was a philosopher. He had the Steiner Institute. And he was able to trick the Nazis for a long, long time into thinking that he was on their side. And one of the reasons why they thought that he was on their side, because he kind of made the statement, well, he did make the statement that the post-Atlantean epochs he talked about, and he said that the Greek post-Atlantean epoch was the greatest ever and it had no parallel. So the Nazis bought into that because the Nazis were able to take the Greek pantheon and to use for lack of a better term, the magic of Richard Wagner and his plays and operas, especially The Ring of the Nibelung that you've heard of before, and transpose the pantheon of gods and goddesses of the Greeks over to the Nordics. And they did that through The Ring of the Nibelung. Now, the Greeks had done the exact same thing, where they transposed the pantheon of Egypt, or Kemet, over to Greek. They did it through a ritual. That's the exact same thing the Nazis did. They did it through a ritual. So Rudolf Steiner was able to trick the Nazis and make them think that he was on their side for years. And then they figured out at some point that he really wasn't, and they went over the Alps and into Switzerland and burned down the Steiner Institute. But before they could do that, he pretty much set the groundwork for probably saving the world. Now, Edgar Cayce was a psychic, an American psychic, He was a devout Catholic, and he gave a lot of different medical advice to people while he was alive. And he would do these things called readings, life readings on people, where he would go into a trance, and then they would ask him questions, and he would talk about the people's past lives and stuff like that. And he was so accurate in the medical advice that he gave, also, that he was actually the most sought out person in the world for medical advice by general practitioners while he was alive. So there is a tremendous amount of credibility behind everything Eric Casey had to say. So Eric Casey basically stressed karma. He basically stressed living a positive life. He basically stressed keeping your thought, word, and deed consistent with each other, in honesty and being positive, and that would render you soul development. So people talk about the spirit all the time, and stuff like that. If you don't have a connection to the spirit, then you don't have anything. All you have is just a world of psychic phenomenon, and the psychic phenomenon is nothing. That's just bullshit. You want to have the real, true creativity, creative magic, and you can't have it if you only have a connection to the psychic realms. You have to be connected to the spirit. The spirit cannot be defined. It cannot be pinned down to anything. You cannot categorize it. You cannot give it a definition. You cannot analyze it. You just have to connect to it. And the way to do that is to you have to be creative, and you have to connect to the love vibration, and you have to be creative, and creativity has to come before the analytical process. Now, Einstein is also attributed with saying that. And Einstein's attributed with saying a lot of shit that I don't know if he really said or not. So let's just pretend he did say it. So he said something like, we live in a world where we have the gift and the servant. And we live in a world where we have inverted it, where we honor the servant and forget about the gift. And that's what he was saying, is that we disconnect ourselves from the spirit. We disconnect ourselves from creativity, stuff that we create our own selves. So instead, we turn around and go by all these goddamn traditions that don't mean a motherfucking thing. When we can create the world we want. How do we do that now? You have to step outside of what is usual. You have to become creative, and you have to make up something and create something that goes against the grains of being in this prison that we're in, this energetic prison that we're in, because of all these goddamn stupid rules that we make up that don't mean shit. Nothing. Not a motherfucking thing. So the key to it is, if you want to educate your golden, now you watch the video for the golden child video. So you watch the how to birth a golden child. If you watch that video, that's fine. Like I said, I'm the kind of person, I don't have to get 5 million views. I'm not monetized. I don't have to get 10 million views. I don't got to get 2 million views. I'm the kind of person, if five fucking people see my video, that's probably enough to save the world. Because those 5 people that find my video and watch my video, those are going to be the highest intellects on the goddamn planet. Okay? And they're going to do something about it, what I'm talking about. Okay? Because they're meant to see what I'm saying. See? Now, you hear me claim something that sounds funny, like I'm the leader of the golden race. I am the leader of the golden race. I was born the leader of the golden race. There's way too many coincidences that I could go over forever to prove to you I'm the leader of the golden race. I was born that way. Like Lady Gaga says, she was born that way. I was born this way. I can't help it. Okay? While you busy watching Power and Empire and all that shit, I'm busy being the leader of the golden race. Okay? I'm busy reading books and doing some creative shit or whatever. Okay? Something that hasn't been done. I'm creating it. See, I'm doing it for you. You don't even know. See what I'm saying? I personally, I'm 56 years old. It took me 54 years. I personally laid the groundwork in my lifetime for the complete destruction of white supremacy. And you don't even know it. And they don't even know it. But I know it. See? Like I said, I'm the smartest person I ever met. So, you can take it how you want. Anyway, so you've seen the video for how to birth a golden child. That's all legit. You see that video? I made that video. And then, so I'm going to tell you now how to educate your golden child. So the very, very, very best way to educate your golden child is to educate that golden child in the Rudolf Steiner system called the Waldorf education method. Why? Well, first of all, Noam Chomsky is the world's most cited source, the most cited author on the planet right now. He is the 8th most cited person in world history for any topic. He is, well, not any topic, but he's the 8th most cited source in world history. He says that creativity, creative learning, creative work, creative inquiry is the order of the day first, before analytical learning. Carl Jung, who people just love to death, consider him to be the world's greatest psychiatrist that ever lived. I don't know. I'm not going to argue with it. I could argue with it, but I ain't going to argue with it. He said the exact same thing. That basically, you have to have as your foundation creative learning first. And that's the only way to free yourself. Otherwise, you get caught up in what's called archetypes. And those archetypes are just older traditions that have been written in stone and that we just follow and that we just go by, and they guide our lives on an unconscious level, and we don't even realize that we're slaves to these particular motifs of living. We just go by it. And as time goes on and on and on, they become more and more and more deranged, more and more psychotic, and that's the reason why our world becomes more and more deranged and more psychotic, because we take it all and we just push it back behind us, and we don't pay any attention, and it festers and it gets worse and worse and worse. And that is what I've had people argue with me about that, but that's what Carl Jung learned from the Nahuatl speaking Indians of the Southwest America, and then Mexico into the Yucatan down into South America. They taught him that we are assailed by forces that we can't see. Those forces are called fetishes, and that those fetishes possess us, demonically possess us, and that's what creates a situation where we are possessed and we live a negative life. So Carl Jung said that the average person, most people, are either what's called anima or animus possessed. And that means that either the male aspect or the female aspect of that person's being is out of balance. And then some people both. And we see that in this tremendous push for transgenderism, because people are out of balance, so they want to try to achieve balance, and they don't realize that there's other ways to do it, and instead they go through these medical procedures to try to change their gender to get back in balance, and then they become even more mentally ill. And if you notice that, if you ever go into a blog and you argue with some transgender people, they're the wackoest motherfuckers on the god. They get mad at every goddamn thing. You could say, oh, your purple fingernail polish is terrible. They will fucking lose their goddamn minds for the next fucking three months. That's neurotic. That's OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and amongst other things, and it leads to pathology and everything else. It's a known fact that most serial killers have some type of out of balance sexual fucked up bullshit going on. And Wilhelm Reich even said it that 100% of neurosis is tied to sexual repression and sexual dysfunction. And they killed him, remember, because he exposed them. But Carl Jung said that 75% of that's the case. And then Sigmund Freud even said about 50% of that is the case. So we know we're on to something there. See, sexual repression and dysfunction is what causes neurosis. Neurosis is the precursor to psychosis, and psychosis is the precursor to, psychotic, pathological behavior, serial killing and mass murder and all that shit, see? Because you're in conflict with yourself. So if you're in conflict with yourself, you're going to be in conflict with other people. So Carl Jung learned about the archetypes. He learned that our dreams are what tells us, is what's telling us how to try to get back in balance. And then the Indians that he learned from told him that, and this is also learned by the Rockefeller Foundation, that they have these rituals called dance rituals. They're called mask rituals. So they put these masks on, and a lot of these masks might look like demon faces or owl faces or whatever the fuck face or whatever, and those represent the fetish. A fetish is a demonic possession, and they said that that they learned that if they don't have these rituals, these dance rituals, with these mask fetishes, with these masks as the fetishes, that they will be they will get possessed by these particular fetishes, and they will take over those people's lives. They will become an obsession, and that's a negative thing because it's something they can't control. They're controlled by it. So they learned that through the creativity of the dance, they're able to transmute the effects of the fetishes. So they experience the fetish in the dance with the rituals, with the mask rituals, and then they transmute it, they completely alleviate it and heal it. They experience it through the dance ritual. So it tells you right there, creativity is the key. You create your own way. So that's where we're at. So to educate your golden child, you want to go with an educational approach that focuses on creativity first. And then a really, really good segue into the analytical processes and sciences and the philosophy and mathematics and engineering and whatever. But you want to have that creative base first. So Rudolf Steiner created this education system called the Waldorf method. So what the Waldorf method does, and the way Steiner explained it, which is correct, he said that from 0 to 7 years old, all you do is observe the child. You don't shove nothing down his throat. You don't try to teach it shit. You might teach it how to walk, or you teach it how to, eat. You teach it how to, have some, manners or whatever. But you don't really interfere in what are the inclinations of the child. You just simply watch it and see what it's attracted to. For 7 whole fucking years. After that, 7 to 14 years old, you put those things in front of the child that you saw that it was inclined towards. You deliberately place those things, if it's 5 things, if it's 10 things, if it's 15 things, whatever, you basically put those things in front of the child that it was inclined towards and let it start playing around and fucking with the shit. Okay? And, you help it along. And then, from 14 to 21, you start actually helping the child to be somewhat vocational in those areas. Actually starting to have some structural activity, some creativity in those areas that it's inclined towards. Okay? And that it's already had some experience in dealing with. Now you want to start getting kind of to the nitty gritty of it, kind of start honing its talents there. And then from 21 to 28, you want to put the child in a journeyman type situation, in an apprentice kind of situation in those areas. And it could be 5 areas, it could be 20, it doesn't matter, because some people have more capacity. Some people have less capacity. Let's say the child only has 2 things it focuses on. Like, it just wants to be it just likes babies and art. So what? I mean, that child might be fucking Basquiat, or it might be Marie Curie. You don't know. See? So you don't, so if the child's inclined towards these things, you don't try to make it be a banker. You help it along what its own soul desire wants to do, where it wants to be creative at. You don't stifle that shit. So if you got a child that's not gonna probably not make any money at doing what it's doing, then that's just too goddamn bad. You got the money. You had it. It's your responsibility. You don't go, at 18, you get the fuck out of here. That's bullshit. So, and then Steiner said from 21 to 28, when a child becomes 28 years old, that's when the human organism is actually mature enough to be on its own. It's not really mature enough to be on its own before that. See? And now you have a fully fledged golden child that is educated properly. Okay? So it's best to educate that child in the Steiner method. Creativity first, analytical learning next. And you notice there's an example that's so true. The Germans were smarter than everybody else. Their society's better than everybody else. They got better work conditions than everybody else. They got better economy than everybody else. They got more money than everybody else. And they're actually nicer people than most people are. Even though they had that little fucked up time back there in World War II, when they did a hiccup and shit like that. But they got their shit together after that. Now the Germans are the premier, and then the people that learn off of that type of setup, you got your the Swiss, the Norwegians, some of the people in areas of Eastern and Northern Europe, places like that. Those people are ahead of the curve if you compare them to the rest of the world. You see, so that's the basic way to educate your golden child. Now, let's just say you're going to do that shit at home or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Just crack open a couple. Go to what's called rsarchive.org and just study Rudolf Steiner, and just keep studying Rudolf Steiner, and just educate them according to the Steiner method, and you will have a child that is, they'll be more dynamic. I mean, they'll be the best opera star. They'll be the best musician, classical musician, rock musician, singer, scientist, mathematician, engineer, whatever. They'll be the best. And they'll have that heart space connection. They won't be so rigid and so stoic, like how a lot of Europeans are. Their fucking nose is through the goddamn roof because they're just, I'm European. You know what I mean? And they'll understand more. Like, for instance, George Washington Carver, who basically single-handedly saved the United States by his methods of agriculture with the peanut and the sweet potato and a lot of stuff that he did with those. He said that if you want to understand life, just study nature, because nature creates. Now, what did Rudolf Steiner say about that? I mean, almost verbatim, quote unquote, the exact same thing. If you want to understand life, just study nature. So I don't know if you ever listened to a Steiner lecture, or if you ever read any Steiner lectures, or read any of his books or whatever. If you haven't, it's a shame, because besides Noam Chomsky, Rudolf Steiner is without a doubt the most intellectual person I've ever read. And I've read, Steiner might be more intellectual than Chomsky. And Chomsky did say, make the statement, quote unquote, that all metaphysics is science. So, see, Steiner was a metaphysician, see. So, and that's kind of saying, Chomsky's kind of admitting that Steiner was ahead of him. Now, I don't consider Steiner to be the greatest scientist that ever lived, but he's pretty goddamn close. But I consider the greatest scientist that ever lived to be Immanuel Velikovsky. That's a whole other video that I will make, but that's the way I feel about it. So, I think this is a pretty good enough explanation of what you need to do. So you watch the video, which is how to birth a golden child, and then follow these instructions in this video, and you will birth children that will save the world, because the world's going down. So if you want to save it, do what I'm saying. If you don't want to save it, ignore me. Doesn't matter to me. So your way it goes, I'm going to heaven. So there you go.